Romeo and Chicklet, written and illustrated by 4th and 6th grade students of Glenbrook High School in Webster Parish. One summer in the late 1800s, there lived a young rooster named Romeo Roosterstein. Romeo was a very stout, strong rooster who had enlisted in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. He was a friendly rooster, but he was very shy and lonely. His loneliness was due to several reasons. First, he spoke with a very thick German accent that was very hard to understand. Also, he was cross-eyed, and he had pigeon toes. If this wasn't bad enough, he had lime green hair, red eyes, and his pigeon toes were purple. He loved to eat, and he would eat anything except chicken. He always wore suspenders, and his greatest wish was to walk and talk right so that he would have friends. Romeo Roosterstein lived on Cluckway Street in a tent village called Roostertown Confederate Army Depot. The village consisted of a circle of tattered tents that surrounded a giant campfire. Behind the tents there were tall oak trees and many colorful flowers. Romeo's tent was green as grass, and it was covered with small colorful patches. Inside the tent, Romeo had a twin-sized bed, a table, and a small chair. The most prized possession in his tent was a watch given to him by his great-grandma Clucker. One hot Saturday morning, Romeo looked out of the door of his tent. He saw the most gorgeous chick he had ever laid rooster eyes on. Just like all the chickens in her family, she had beautiful yellow feathers on her body, a brilliant purple cone on the top of her chicken head, and bright turquoise tail feathers. Romeo fell madly in rooster love at first sight. He began to think about how to approach this chick that was as pretty as a daisy in bloom. He really wanted to meet her, but he was embarrassed about his thick German accent, his crossed eyes, and his purple pigeon toes. First, he decided to study the English language in order to improve his dreaded accent, but that was anything but successful. Next, he decided to draw a pretty picture and write an awesome poem. Unfortunately, just as he finished the poem, he accidentally spilled ink on the paper. Then he decided to take her some beautiful flowers. He picked fluffy dandelions, bright purple pansies, and silky red roses. But when he awoke the next morning, the dandelions were no longer fluffy, the pansies had lost their petals, and the roses were wilted. One day, he noticed that the beautiful chick was stomping around her yard in frustration. It seemed that she had a problem with the water well in her yard. Finally, after weeks of admiring her from afar, he saw this as a perfect opportunity to meet the pretty chick. He had a million things to say to her, and now he had his chance. He put on his best uniform, shined his beak, and he pigeon-toed over to offer his help. Since she could not even fix a sandwich without harming herself, surely she would take the help of a cross-eyed, pigeon-toed rooster. Since Romeo did not have good eyesight because of his crossed eyes, he did not see the chicken wire in the yard. Suddenly, his pigeon toes became tangled in the chicken wire, and he tripped. He fell to the ground with a hard jolt and broke his drumstick. The rooster had nothing but bad luck. Fortunately, the beautiful chick had once been a chicken nurse, so she took Romeo into her home and nursed him back to health. They fell in love, and they were married by Judge Harmon Drew. They had 4 young chicks and lived on Cluckway Street, happily ever after. One of the chicks inherited the house, painted it purple, and became the mother of Carrie Cluckerwood, the famous Funky Chicken. The Funky Chicken donated the purple house and the surrounding land that became known as the farm as a place for all the young chickens together in the spring to celebrate the arts. The farm is famous for hosting the Funky Chicken Festival, which is held every year in April. The end.